So, did we just witness the total destruction of a legacy, or is the real monster of Fairmont Crest still hiding in the shadows right in front of us? I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. We all watched as Jacob finally put those handcuffs on Joey and Heather Armstrong, but was that really the final nail in the coffin for the plasma ring? Or are we just being set up for a betrayal so deep it's going to redefine everything we think we know about this town? If you're like me, you're probably reeling right now because the gates of Fairmont Crest aren't just closing, they're slamming shut on some of the ugliest secrets we've ever seen on daytime TV. To really get why this is such a massive deal, we have to talk about the absolute rot that's been eating away at this community. We aren't just talking about your typical soap opera drama like a hidden baby or a cheating scandal. No, we're talking about a black market blood plasma ring operating right out of the hospital where people go to get saved. It's actually kind of terrifying when you think about it. The literal lifeblood of patients at Garland Memorial was being stolen and sold to the highest bidder. And the man who finally blew the lid off this thing is Jacob Hawthorne, but he's not the same guy he was a few months ago. He's been living this double life as Rashad, an undercover driver, and that kind of thing changes you. Well, look at why he did it in the first place. He wanted to step out from the shadow of his father, the police chief, Elon Hawthorne. He wanted to prove he was his own man, but he ended up in a web that was way bigger than he ever imagined. The funny thing is, he thought he was the hunter, but for a long time, he was actually the one being hunted. And the cost? It was the life of his best friend, Derek Baldwin. Derek was a firefighter, a guy who spent his life saving people, and in the end, he died trying to protect Jacob and his ex, Ashley. It's just heartbreaking. Derek followed Grayson to that warehouse because he was worried about Ashley, and he ended up taking a bullet in the gut. Before he passed away at the hospital, he got to tell Ashley he loved her one last time. But now, Jacob is carrying all that guilt, and he is a man possessed. He's not just looking for justice anymore, he's looking for revenge. So let's break down how this whole thing actually worked, because it's a masterclass in how to hide a monster. You had Grayson Perez at the bottom, just a lab tech with too much debt who got in way over his head. He was making drops in the hospital elevator, just a cog in the machine. Then you had Ren Tolliver handling the logistics at the warehouse. But the real shocker for the characters, even if we saw it coming, was Dr. Leah Whitmore, the chief of staff. Imagine the ego it takes to use a hospital like a personal piggy bank for blood. But even Leah was just a mid-level manager. Jacob and Smitty realized that even a doctor of her standing was answering to someone else. And that brings us to Joey Armstrong. He played us all, didn't he? He sat there acting like the concerned boyfriend for Vanessa, pretending he didn't know anything about the ring. He even told Elon Hawthorne he wanted to stay out of it because he didn't like crossing territorial lines. What a lie. In reality, he was the one in that hidden room giving orders to Leah and Grayson. He was the shadow of Fairmont Crest, the dark reality hiding behind the glitter and the gated walls. He probably got a kick out of watching the police chase shadows while he sat in their living rooms. But even Joey had a breaking point. When Jacob finally cornered him, Joey did the unthinkable. He gave up his own sister, Heather. Now, wait a minute. Is Heather Armstrong really the Impaler? Or is Joey just throwing her under the bus to save his own skin? Think about that for a second. In Joey's world, loyalty only goes as far as it's useful. He confessed that his sister was the mastermind, the one who's been operating in the shadows this whole time. Some people actually predicted this, thinking a new character like Heather had to be the one at the very top. But catching her feels almost too easy, doesn't it? There's this growing fear that the organization is actually bigger and way more dangerous than just two siblings. What if Heather has loyalists we haven't even met yet? Jacob might have the handcuffs on them, but is he ready for the war that's about to start? The timing of these arrests is just wild because it's all happening right as the show hits its 300th episode on June 3rd, 2026. This is supposed to be a time for celebration for the Hawthornes and the Duprees, but instead, they're dealing with confessions and ultimatums. While Jacob is out there arresting masterminds, his wife Naomi is basically a nervous wreck. She's seen the change in him. He's cold. He's determined. She even had a nightmare about him dying, which in soap opera world is basically a neon sign saying trouble is coming. Do you think their marriage can even survive this? Jacob is so focused on avenging Derek that he's completely shutting his family out. And then you have the rest of the family drama. Nicole is over here admitting to Ted that she's been having these fantasies. I mean, her timing couldn't be worse. They're supposed to be this power couple, part of the black royalty of Fairmont Crest, but the cracks are starting to show. She even tells Anita that not everything is about sex, but Anita isn't buying it. Is Nicole looking for an escape because her world is getting too heavy? And what about Bill Hamilton? Haley noticed his hand was shaking, and he seemed pretty vague about it. Is he dealing with a major health scare, or is he just starting to realize that his fiancée and Randy have been conning him from the start? Speaking of Randy, he and Joey were getting ready for a face-to-face meeting with the Impaler before the cops moved in. That tells you everything you need to know about the hierarchy. Joey wasn't just a boss, he was the gatekeeper to the ultimate power. And while all this criminal stuff is going
down, we have Darlene and Leslie literally getting into it at the police station. Leslie basically threatened to beat Darlene's ass if she wasn't nice to her daughter, and Darlene just told her to try me. It's total chaos. It's like the social pressure of the gated community is finally causing everyone to snap. But the biggest thing on the horizon has to be this massive crossover with the young and the restless. I mean, we are talking about Victor Newman himself coming to town to support Vernon's fundraiser. And the Abbotts are right behind him. Jack, Kyle, and even a missing Diane might show up. Why would these icons from Genoa City be coming to Fairmont Crest right now? Is it possible the plasma ring has connections that go all the way to Wisconsin? Can you imagine Victor Newman sitting across a table from someone like Joey Armstrong? That's a face-off I would pay to see. It feels like the writers are expanding the world of the show to show that the rot in Fairmont Crest isn't just a local problem. It's a national scandal waiting to explode. So where does this leave us? Jacob thinks he's won. He thinks that by arresting Heather and Joey, he's destroyed the ring and avenged Derek. But if I've learned anything from watching these families, it's that the people at the very top never go down that easily. Leah Whitmore is already in an interrogation room with Marcel, and she's probably going to flip on everyone to save herself. She was never a leader, she was just someone who wanted to be elite so badly she was willing to kill for it. But will Joey find a way to silence her before she talks? He's the type of guy who probably has people on the inside of the jail before the ink on the arrest report is even dry. And what about Grayson? He's the one who gave up Leah's name, and now he's facing a life or death deadline. He tried to do the right thing in the end by cooperating with Jacob and Smitty, but he might have just signed his own death warrant. He's trying to get back with Ashley, but she's still reeling from Derek's death. How do you forgive the man who was part of the organization that killed your ex? It's a mess. Every relationship in this town is being tested by blood and secrets. Was this really just a high-stakes medical heist? Or have we been watching the slow-motion collapse of a social empire while the real monster sat right in our living rooms? Seriously, think about that for a second. We have spent months peeling back the layers of the plasma ring, watching Jacob Hawthorne lose his mind and his best friend, all to unmask the legendary Impaler. And now that the handcuffs are finally on, we have to ask ourselves, did we actually catch the head of the snake, or did the snake just shed its skin to survive another day? The gates of Fairmont Crest are finally swinging shut on the most dangerous secret in town, and honestly, the fallout is going to leave every single resident gasping for air. To really get why the reveal of the Impaler's identity is such a psychological gut punch, we have to look at the sheer audacity of the crime itself. For nearly a year, the literal lifeblood of Garland Memorial's patients was being siphoned off and sold to the highest bidder. This wasn't just some boring financial scam. It was a violation of the most sacred trust a community has in its healers. But why did it happen in Fairmont Crest of all places? Well, think about it. The show chose this setting because it represents the ultimate irony. Here you have black royalty, a community built on the sweat and tears of generations of achievement, and yet there's a parasite at the center of it all, literally draining the life out of the people meant to be protected. The setup was a masterclass in what we can call bureaucratic camouflage. We had the low-level workers, we had the shields, and then we had the shadows. Jacob Hawthorne, operating under the alias Rashad, has been risking his marriage and his sanity as an undercover driver to find this monster. But as he's learned the hard way, when you go looking for a monster, you have to be careful not to become one yourself. Jacob's transition from a principled detective to an obsessed vigilante is a fascinating study. He wasn't just doing this for the law. He was doing it to step out from the imposing shadow of his father, Chief Elon Hawthorne. His ego became his greatest liability. He thought he was the invisible hand of justice, but in reality he was just a fly caught in a web that was designed to vibrate the moment he touched a single strand. Before we get to the big reveal, we have to talk about the Shield, Dr. Leah Whitmore. For weeks, she was the face of the Impaler mystery. She was cold, calculating, and she used her position as chief of staff to hide a criminal empire. But look at why she acted this way. Leah's behavior was fueled by a desperate, almost pathetic need for status. She wanted to belong to the Fairmont Crest elite so badly that she traded her medical ethics for a seat at a table that was never truly hers. Internally, she must have felt a constant state of imposter syndrome, which triggered her need to micromanage the ring with such cruelty. Leah is far more tragic than the real boss. She chose to become a predator because she was too insecure to be a peer. She wasn't the Impaler. She was the lightning rod designed to take the heat when the police finally moved in. Then we have the mid-level reveal that shook everyone. Joey Armstrong. For the longest time, we thought Joey was just a mobster with a loose connection to the hospital. But then we saw him in that hidden room, giving orders to a doctor and a lab tech like they were disposable chess pieces. Joey represents the shadow of Fairmont Crest. He's the dark reality that supports the glittering surface of the elite. Psychologically, Joey operates from a place of supreme ego. He believed he was untouchable because he had successfully compartmentalized his life, comforting Vanessa McBride by day and running a blood market empire by night. It's chilling to realize that while Jacob was hunting for the leader was often sitting right across from him, perhaps even offering him a drink. But here is the twist that truly redefines the show's hierarchy. When Jacob finally cornered Joey, the underboss didn't go down in a hail of bullets or a stoic silence. He broke. And in that moment of weakness, he gave up a name no one expected. Heather Armstrong. Joey's own sister. This is where the story shifts from a crime thriller into a real tragedy. Why would Joey give up his own blood? The funny thing is, it was a move of pure self-preservation. Joey might have a god complex, but he's also a coward when the handcuffs start rattling. By naming Heather as the true Impaler, he isn't just closing a case, he's starting a family war. Who is Heather Armstrong? If she is indeed the mastermind, we are looking at a character who understood the power of invisibility. While Joey was out there being the guy, Heather was likely the one making the actual connections. Reframing the Impaler as a woman, specifically the invisible sister, is a brilliant move. It challenges our assumptions about power in Fairmont Crest. We expected a man, someone loud and imposing like Vernon Dupree or Elon Hawthorne. Instead, the most dangerous person in town was a woman operating from the shadows of her brother's reputation. Heather isn't just a criminal. She's a response to a world that usually ignores the women in these high-level families. The emotional insight here is pretty devastating. Imagine being Heather, watching your brother take the credit and the risks while you pull the strings. There has to be a deep-seated resentment there, a psychological fracture that allowed her to view human blood as nothing more than a commodity. She likely feels a sense of intellectual superiority over everyone in town, including her brother. My interpretation? Heather didn't just want the money. She wanted to prove that she could dismantle the very system the Hawthornes and Duprees spent their lives building. She is the ultimate predatory intellectual. But we can't talk about the Impaler's identity without talking about the blood that was spilled to find it. Derek Baldwin's death is the literal price of this secret. Derek wasn't a detective, he was a firefighter. He was a man of action and heart. When he followed Grayson to that warehouse, he wasn't looking for a headline. He was looking to protect Ashley. His death at the hands of the ring's soldiers changed the atmospheric pressure of the entire show. It turned Jacob's investigation into a blood feud. Jacob isn't arresting Heather now just because she broke the law. He's arresting her because his friend is in the ground and he needs someone to pay for that loss. This brings us to the psychological layer of Jacob's current state. He is operating from a place of hero's folly. His ego is tied to his identity as a protector, and when he couldn't prevent Derek's death, his psyche broke. He's no longer a man of the law, he's a man of the hunt. This makes the arrest of Heather Armstrong feel less like a victory and more like a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding of his own conscience. I honestly disagree with Jacob's methods lately. He's cutting himself off from Naomi, ignoring her instincts and treating the world like one big crime scene. He's catching the Impaler, but is he losing himself in the process? And let's look at the timing of this reveal. It's all happening during the week of June 1st, coinciding with the landmark 300th episode. The writers are using this milestone to contrast the public celebration of Fairmont Crest with its private rot. While Vernon Dupree is securing the support of icons like Victor Newman for a fundraiser, his own community is being torn apart by the revelation that the Armstrongs, people they've likely shared meals with, are the ones preying on them. The arrival of the Newmans and the Abbotts from the young and the restless adds a massive layer of escalation. It shows that the plasma ring isn't just a local scandal. It's a national horror story. Can you imagine the look on Victor Newman's face when he realizes the black royalty he's supporting is currently under investigation for black market blood trafficking? The tension is hitting a boiling point because the arrest of Heather and Joey doesn't actually feel like the end. Prediction time. I suspect that Heather Armstrong has loyalists we haven't even met yet. Joey might have given her up, but a woman who can run a sophisticated ring out of a major hospital likely has some insurance in place. If she goes down, she's taking the rest of Fairmont Crest with her. We are going to see confessions that implicate people we've considered heroes since day one. What if a member of the Dupree family was a silent partner? What if the hospital board knew more than they let on? The identity of the Impaler was just the first domino. I really want to know what you guys think about all of this. Do you think Joey is actually telling the truth about Heather being the Impaler? Or is this just another one of his calculated moves to stay in control? I mean, he's a master manipulator, so I wouldn't put it past him to set up his own sister just to stay out of the line of fire. And what about Jacob? Can he ever really go back to being a normal detective, or has the Rashad persona and the death of his best friend changed him forever? He's operating with this dangerous level of arrogance right now, thinking he's the hero of a story that's guaranteed a happy ending. But this is Fairmont Crest. Happy endings are hard to come by when the walls are built on stolen lives. This whole week of June 1st is going to be a total game changer. Between the 300th episode milestones and the arrival of the Newmans and Abbotts, the stakes have literally never been higher. The gates are open, the secrets are out, and I have a feeling the fallout is going to leave every single resident gasping for air. Make sure you don't miss a single second of this because the truth is finally coming out, and it's going to hit everyone hard. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark side of the gates, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps out. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve and know exactly what's happening in Fairmont Crest before anyone else, make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. I want to hear your wildest theories in the comments. Who do you think is the real mastermind? Thanks for hanging out with me today. Stay safe out there and I'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned for the explosion. Why do we think Anita is going public with her cancer? Because she's done with the whispers and gossip. She's turning her interview into a citywide call to action. It's such a contrast to Leslie, who is launching her own promotional campaign to hide her crimes. One woman is using the truth to heal, and the other is using lies to exploit. It's biblical, guys. Just biblical. And the Abbott's arrival? Martin is preparing for them, but is he ready for the drama they bring? Diane is missing in Genoa City, and people are wondering if she's been in the DMV the entire time. It's a multi-episode storyline that is going to unravel all week. It's exciting, it's shocking, and it's beyond the gates. See you in the next one. Don't miss it. Okay, now I'm definitely going. Wait, don't forget Victor Newman's Sword of Damocles. He's the powerful figure taking the town by storm. If he supports the fundraiser, he's putting his reputation on the line. And Leslie is driving toward the cliff while he's watching. It's biblical, I'm telling you. Bye for real. One last question. Do you think Ted can